Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. In our most recent video, I criticized Mace Windu for being more loyal to the Jedi Code and Jedi Order than the Galactic Republic and the Galactic Constitution that the Jedi have sworn to protect. And of course, I used the scene of Mace Windu trying to execute the Supreme Chancellor as an example.
I am going to end this once and for all.
You can't. He must stand trial.
He has control of the Senate and the courts. He's too dangerous to be left alive.
Now, a lot of you guys in the comment section of that video pointed out that Mace Windu didn't really have much of a choice here. He had to act in one way or another. And you guys are right. I mean, Palpatine had the Jedi in a really, really unwinnable position. It was checkmate, basically. Even though Mace Windu had a saber at Palpatine's throat, Palpatine had a blaster aimed at the back of every Jedi in the Order. And the most talented members of the Jedi, the most powerful Masters, Knights, and Padawans were deployed in the Outer Rim Siege, a Republic offensive that besieged several Separatist strongholds in the Outer Rim regions. It was supposed to be the last push of the war against the Separatists, although the surprise attack on Coruscant way in the Republic's rear was quite shocking and unexpected. But the point is, these Jedi were spread out thin and isolated in the furthest corners of the galaxy and surrounded by clone troopers. The Battle of Coruscant that we mentioned just shortly before was most likely an attack designed by the Sith to shore up support for the war, which I'm sure had been waning after 4 long years. And so even if the Jedi wanted to take a step back from the war and, I don't know, rest a little bit, take a closer look at what they were fighting for, the public probably would have viewed this as them abandoning the war effort. Because these guys weren't just Jedi Orders anymore, they were officers for the Republic military. And if there were Jedi deserting from their duty, this would put more attention on the more questionable aspects of the Jedi Order, like why are they recruiting children? Why do they have so much access to Republic resources without having any accountability to the Republic? Palpatine could easily fan the flames further. And so even if Five's warning about the inhibitor chips in Order 66 had reached Anakin Skywalker properly, I don't really think the Jedi would have a move here to disengage from the war, to disengage from the clone troopers. So as you can see, Mace Windu is in a no-win situation. He's just found out that the Supreme Chancellor of the Republic is a Sith Lord, the same Sith Lord that has been clouding the Jedi's vision and haunting their every step since the Battle of Naboo more than a decade earlier. Mace had no time to think when Anakin came to him with his suspicions. During more normal times, Mace Windu would have discussed the course of action with Grand Master Yoda and his fellow council members. Yoda was in Kashyyyk, and Mace Windu was left in charge, and so he was forced to gather up a posse of whoever he could find along the way, and those other Jedi Masters have been completely wiped out in the first seconds of their duel against Palpatine, and now it was just Mace Windu and that snot-nosed kid Anakin Skywalker. A Jedi Knight that Mace Windu had shown contempt and mistrust for since the moment he joined the Order. The ironic thing is, had Mace Windu listened to Anakin here and not attempted to kill Palpatine, maybe things would have turned out better for both of them, for all of them. For one, by not threatening to kill Palpatine, Mace Windu wouldn't have lost his arm. Remember, Anakin had come to Mace Windu on his own accord. Even though the older Jedi Master never showed him any kindness, Anakin was still trying to do the right thing at this point. I think Mace needs to give Anakin more credit for this. Had Mace Windu not decided to strike down and execute Palpatine right then and there, I think Anakin not only would have not attacked him, he probably would have helped Mace Windu restrain the Chancellor. Originally, when Anakin found out that Palpatine was a Sith Lord, his initial reaction was also to kill him as well. All Jedi are trained like this. I don't care if the Sith is a baby or an endangered animal or a baby endangered animal, a Jedi will find a way to chop its head off. It was only Anakin's friendship and connection to Palpatine and the fear that murdering the Chancellor would turn him to the dark side that made him go seek for help. So Anakin and Mace Windu have to detain Palpatine because even in his weakened state, he is a vicious animal. But what exactly is Mace Windu arresting Palpatine for exactly? His connection to Count Dooku and the Separatists? His role in starting the Clone Wars? Because he has no proof of any of that. Only the fans know because we've seen the movies. Maybe Mace Windu can accuse Palpatine of being a Sith Lord. I mean, just think about this for a second, how that would look to the general populace. You're not a Star Wars fan, you have no idea what the future and past of these characters are. You're just taking this situation at face value. You live in a galaxy where the Jedi are a mysterious but well-liked organization of warriors who wield an even more mysterious power known as the Force. Most individuals in the galaxy have never seen the Force in action. I'm sure most of them don't even believe in it. And I'm sure there are some that believe the Jedi are a legend. Now, these mysterious Jedi were given leadership positions within the Grand Army of the Republic to protect the populace, and one of their leaders overnight has marched into the Chancellor's office and arrested him for being what now? A Sith Lord? Do you guys remember what happened when Qui-Gon Jinn came to the Jedi Council claiming that he fought a Sith Lord?
He was trained in the Jedi arts. My only conclusion can be that it was a Sith Lord.
Impossible. The Sith have been extinct for a millennium.
I do not believe the Sith could have returned without us knowing.
Yeah, they didn't believe him either. If anyone's going to be aware of the Sith, it's going to be the Jedi Council, right? I mean, these guys have been training their entire lives to fight these people. I mean, this is why Mace Windu's first reaction after defeating Palpatine in combat is to kill him. This is how extreme the Jedi are about this one group of people, and still, even they didn't believe that the Sith were back. Do you really think the general populace are going to believe that their chancellor is actually a Sith Lord, which is basically like calling him a evil wizard in our own timeline? Now, it should be mentioned in the past, especially during the Old Republic era, there were policies and bills that actually banned the Sith religion entirely. In Legends, during the Jedi Civil War in 3959, that is exactly what happened. And that bill would last up until the Rusan Reformation, when the Sith were completely wiped out from the galaxy, or so it seemed. But since then, you know, for the last 1,000 years or so, bills like this are deemed to be uncivilized and too rough and crude. A sign of the past, when people were dumber and more savage. Instead, now, during the last age of the Republic, the Galactic Constitution outlawed persecution based on religious affiliation. Perhaps you even have bored academics who have nothing better to do than spend their entire lives trying to rehabilitate the image of the Sith and how, you know, they were just simply misunderstood. But what's probably even more likely is that the Sith were seen as mythical characters, like witches or warlocks in our own world. Foolish fictional characters created by dumb people who have no explanation of what they saw when they saw a person who just is a little bit different from them. And so for the wider galaxy to be aware or know about the Sith is highly unlikely, and for the Jedi Mace Windu to use this as the main reason for overthrowing the elected leader of the Republic during the middle of the Clone Wars is problematic, to say the least. While there are going to be some supporters of the Jedi, there are going to be various religious factions that worship the Force that might understand the dangers of the dark side, but these individuals are going to be outnumbered. Most people will have no idea what the hell is going on. They're also going to be Palpatine loyalists created by his Compor political movement. You're going to have establishment media, which is made up of professional journalists, historians, analysts, of the like. They're going to be alarmed that Mace Windu broke convention and decided to take action unilaterally without the support of the judicial branch or inform the Senate of his actions. At best, the media is going to speculate whether Mace Windu is a rogue Jedi who's acting on his own orders. At worst, the entire Jedi Order is going to be accused of treason. I mean, the citizens of Coruscant and the rest of the galaxy didn't exactly stand up and shelter the Jedi during Order 66, right? As a matter of fact, even before Order 66 was carried out, there was a lot of propaganda flowing around about just how messed up and powerful and evil the Jedi were.
I've heard 100 stories about the Jedi. They terrified me as a boy on Coruscant, but you...
And so Mace Windu doesn't really have the luxury to think strategically after arresting Palpatine. He has to think immediately tactically, because very few people are going to understand what the hell he's doing here. Now take a look at these scenes where Mace Windu and his Jedi buddies walk into Palpatine's office. Take a look then at Anakin arriving late by himself. Notice anything? There's 0 guards. No guards outside the actual Republic Executive Building. You know, the massive round structure that houses the Senate and is perhaps the most secured location on Coruscant, having been attacked on multiple occasions by criminal elements, droid armies, and terrorists. My assumption here is that Palpatine somehow removed all of the guards from the building in order to allow the Jedi to have the time and freedom to arrest them. Notice at no time does Palpatine hit an alarm button to have guards reinforce him when Mace Windu shows up. He's not acting like an individual who is trapped. He's acting like an individual who has set the trap. And so if Mace Windu and Anakin act quickly, they can definitely leave the Chancellor's office with the Chancellor in tow without being stopped by anyone. And they could probably find a ship and get off of the world. Now my belief is that Palpatine, as usual, would be ahead of the game. He's probably game planned for this exact scenario. And I think the contingency that Palpatine would have in place here would be to have either, you know, Mas Amedda or Gallius Rax, who's around 17 at this time, carry out Order 66. This would still catch the majority of the Jedi by surprise. Many would fall and die. I imagine Mace and Anakin, once they reach their ship, will inform the Jedi Order what the hell is happening and how everyone is in danger now. It is very possible that the Jedi will use their military leadership roles to secure forces loyal to them. Unfortunately, these clones all have inhibitor chips and will turn against them. The Coruscant Guard, under Mace Windu's control, would most likely besiege the Jedi Temple, and a similar tragedy would befall there. There is a chance that I think Mace Windu might recall all the Jedi back to Coruscant in an attempt to secure the centers of power with their own people. But with most of the Republic's military force arrayed against them, I still think the Jedi would lose. It's basically too late for the Jedi by this time. Palpatine has already planted the seeds for their downfall. It's irreversible. But Mace Windu, Anakin Skywalker, Palpatine, and a handful of other Jedi will still survive, just like they did in the original timeline. I'm not sure if Mace Windu would have the power to declare the rise of the Empire like Palpatine did, but he would most likely place the Republic in a state of emergency, and all Jedi would be treated like fugitives. Amena's main concern would be to bring Palpatine back alive. Meanwhile, the Jedi will have to figure out a way to clear their names and expose Palpatine for what he is actually. Which is probably why Mace Windu and Anakin can't kill Palpatine now. Although I'm pretty sure they both really want to kill Palpatine. I mean, the Jedi Council completely greenlit the assassination attempt on Count Dooku using Quinlan Vos in the last year of the war. They really don't see the Sith as humans. But this predicament that Mace and Anakin find themselves in will force them at least to keep Palpatine alive a little longer so that they can extract all the information they need from him. They'll probably need some type of special mechanism to restrain Darth Sidious. You can't just look over him 24/7. You can use something like the Mandalorian-built prisoner box used to restrain Maul after the siege of Mandalore, for instance. But what will be even tougher is breaking into Palpatine's mind. He'll have had a lot of training concealing himself from the Force and also preventing others from looking into his head. Mace Windu and Anakin have no qualms, of course, on using the Force to probe the minds of criminals. They have practice. And by learning more about Palpatine's role in the Clone Wars and how he's been operating all these years, it's possible that Anakin and Mace Windu can start building a case. But this is going to be very hard to do, especially with Mace Windu trying to kill them at every moment. Eventually, Mace Windu and, Anakin, they're probably going to have to start a rebellion. This is not a discussion that could be won in the court of law or in the court of public opinions. So I have to begrudgingly admit that Mace Windu's first reaction to kill Palpatine probably would have led to the best outcomes for him. As long as Anakin is not there to cut his arm off. And that's because if Mace Windu somehow managed to arrest Palpatine and get through the gauntlet of things that would take him to get to trial, it's very possible that Palpatine would still win that hearing. And that's because he's a political monster. This is his arena. It's not Mace Windu's arena at all. Palpatine's corruption of the judicial systems will more or less guarantee that there's really no way to use the system to punish him. He already has high-ranking individuals like Wilhelm Tarkin and Wolf Yularen within the system ready to protect him. And let's say Mace Windu was successful at killing Palpatine, and the Jedi coup was successful at overthrowing the government. The Jedi would control the Republic, and there would be better outcomes for the short run, but people will remember the actions of Mace Windu. They will remember how he superseded the Constitution and the three branches of government to deliver justice. Even though his behavior here technically is wrong and anti-democratic, the outcome of his behavior here has saved the galaxy from a true tyrant, creating a very complex political situation that is far closer to the truth than what movies will show us when it comes to covering the political world. Oftentimes, leaders are not given a clear choice between a good result and a bad result. They're just given two really terrible choices, and they choose the consequences they're willing to deal with. And that's probably what happened in that office that day. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. And as usual, my name is Alan, reminding you that my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy.